What is up, dudes? It's me, WBO Wombat, and I'm back with, I think, the second to last review for, Beyblade Burst CHO Z, which is, unfortunately, another Beyblade that I don't have. It is Air Knight 12Expand Eternal, the prize of Random Booster 13, I believe. Yeah, 13. So, yeah, I'll just talk about the parts. The first is the layer Air Knight, which is, I don't have. There's a blue and a white version released in the random booster. There's a red one in the random layer collection, and there's a yellow one that I don't quite remember where you get it from, but there is another recolor of it. It looks a bit like Maximum Garuda in the sense that they're both, very big, and the outsides are perfect circles, or close to perfect, because nothing's actually ever a perfect circle. So what makes Air Knight, because it has most of its metal in the center, and the sides of it, they're not smooth and thin like Garudas are. They have like slopes on them, which kind of ruin its aerodynamics and stuff. That makes it not as good for stamina as a bunch of other things like Archer Hercules or Orb Aegis or Perfect Phoenix. But where it excels is defense. Because of the centralized weight distribution, a popular combo I think in Taiwan is Air Knight Blitz Atomic. Because the centralized weight distribution of Air Knight and Blitz will allow it to move to the center fairly easily, so you can launch it hard without risking self-KO. And just due to its round shape and its wideness makes it difficult to KO. It performs pretty well against Judgment and Zwei because of that. Its diameter and its smooth surface means that it performs pretty well against opposite spin as well. Though, I used probably the most... It's not good enough to overcome, like, a bad driver matchup, because I don't actually own this, but I was in someone's live stream, and they were testing out combos in a battle, and I tried out an Air Knight Expand Atomic versus Wizard Fafnir Something Destroy, and Air Knight was still losing, so it's not quite good enough to overcome a bad driver matchup. I don't know if it's good enough to overcome a bad disc matchup. I don't know, like, what disc a Hell Salamander or Dread Diabolos or whatever else combo would need to have to lose to Air Knight Blitz Atomic. But, it's certainly possible that that's the case. But, so overall, it's kind of like a very niche defense layer. It's definitely viable in deck if you build the rest of your deck around it properly, because it takes out both attack types pretty consistently, as well as some Hell Salamander atomics, or some left spin atomics. So if you give it the proper support, it can probably do well in deck, but it's kind of a defensive layer, and if you've seen like some of the combos I've used or posted on this channel, I'm a pretty defensive enthusiast, and I don't even own this part, so that should be saying something about how widely it's used in general, in my opinion. So up next, the disc is 12, officially the lightest disc still, at 16.0 grams. I think mine's like 16.11 or something, but this is, because it's the lightest disc, it's only really useful for the one video I did like a concept on earlier, where I used a super light disc on a driver on a super heavy layer and see if it would be unburstable, and turns out it's not actually unburstable, so that like throws out the one use that these super light discs would even have. I think in at least the WBO rules, 12 is not allowed to be used without a frame, because the sharp points on it will rip chunks out of the opponent's Beyblade, and it's not advisable to use it without a frame because of that, unless you want to damage other people's Beyblades or your own Beyblades if you're testing with it. And since it's the other purpose it could be used for doesn't even work, it's kind of a useless disc at this point. Expand was the frame I was talking about earlier. It's currently the best frame for opposite spin, atomic, and destroy. Yeah, it's not really saying a lot because in the meta today, Orbit's actually becoming a lot more popular because atomic doesn't really have a chance against bearing or extend plus and opposite spin, but I think that expand is still useful because if you can win the atomic versus atomic matchup using a frame or some other kind of disc, then that's still a useful matchup to win. Like, it's a pretty crucial matchup to win in my opinion. So that's why expand is still useful. I don't know, people like using it on crash, on destroy dash as well. I've also heard that it kind of scrapes in same spin. I don't actually own this part myself, so I can't attest for whether that's true or not, but maybe expand would not be so useful for if you're trying to destabilize same spin bearing or extend plus, because it might scrape, kind of like using one of the bearing frames or ratchet or vanguard on bearing tends to do. And finally, the driver is Eternal. Apparently this one comes in like a cool like green and white color, or orange and white. I don't know. It's a really cool recolor of Eternal. All the POM drivers get cool recolors. The original ones look kind of bland though. But anyways, Eternal is kind of outclassed by Extend Plus at this point because Extend Plus is better in both same spin and opposite spin. It still is useful in Classic, where Extend Plus is banned, Hasbro Bearing is banned. The layers are too light compared to the discs to make TT Bearing usable at all. So Destroy and Absorb are essentially the best opposite spin drivers in Classic, and that makes it useful on some combos like Neptune Yell Eternal and Dragoon F Yell Eternal. And it can still get by in standard to some degree, just because, well, it'll beat opposite spin atomic. So if there's a place that's using a lot of atomic, you can use Eternal to defeat that, but it's a little safer to use than destroy, in my opinion. So it's still like has niche uses, but overall it's kind of been phased out of the meta by things like Extend Plus, especially Extend Plus is what I would say. And I think despite being Polish Absorb being the more reliable option for Dragoon and Classic, even more so than Destroy Dash when I had it. Destroy now, the Destroy Dash is banned. Eternal is still the go-to driver. The Hasbro version, Eternal S, which I don't have, is actually pretty good on that setup as well. It may or may not be better than the TT Eternal same spin. But overall, it's still a good driver to have, I think. Overall, Air Knight it comes with a few interesting parts, none of which are in Air Knight and Expand and Eternal if you didn't already have it. But Air Knight and Expand are interesting. Neither of them are must-haves in my opinion. Expand is the best in its class for opposite spin, atomic, and destroy, and maybe absorb too, just because stuff that works well on those two drivers tends to also work well on absorb, but I don't know because no one's ever tested that. I can't confirm it. Air Knight has niche uses for defense and kind of countering opposite spin, and Expand is also available on the Wolborg Zero Expand Atomic and the same booster, which comes with pretty much all top tier parts for either standard or classic, so that's probably a better value buy than Air Knight. And if you really want Air Knight, it goes for pretty cheap. I think the Random Layer Collection, or the yellow one that I forget where it's from. But either way, Air Knight's an interesting Beyblade. It's good for expanding your collection and picking up some more tier 2 parts, or more like niche use parts, but I wouldn't say it's particularly mandatory to have. Up next is Dead Phoenix, which is also something I should have, but I don't have. So that'll be a fun review to do, I think. I'll see you then.